Joined in studio by Matsi Modise, an advocate for black entrepreneurs in townships. Matsi, thank you so much for your time this morning.
It's always a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Now, before we get into the digital space in South Africa, take me through the Kasi to Kasi Go Digital Summit.
Essentially, the Go Digital Summit is our understanding that everything that we do is online. Everything we do is digital. And we felt that small businesses in township environments should not be left behind in the digital migration. It was a function of how do you introduce digital opportunities? How do you introduce technology that is an enabler for small businesses to prosper and integrate themselves into the mainstream economy? So the Go Digital Divide was our concept of saying, well, let's integrate small businesses. Let's forge them into the mainstream economy, and let's get the public and the private sector engaging small businesses in township environments, so that we're trying to revitalize our township environments. This is one of the key elements and components of saying, well, to be able to enable small businesses, technology and innovation is not something that should be left behind.
And why did you specifically focus on townships?
Townships because majority of, the economy still does not have enough black people participating, and many of our black people come from townships, and we also feel that townships need to be areas in which they can have their own economies. They have to function within themselves. So how do we enable those environments? So it has to be a main focus because there's still a minority of black SMMEs and black industrialists, and we have to find a way of propelling them into the mainstream economy.
Now, we understand that small businesses, especially in the townships, are prone to higher failure rate, and you're introducing a digital space where they can benefit. But how lucrative is this digital space for youth entrepreneurs?
It's a lucrative environment. If you have to look at the global trends of e-commerce, it's evolving, and e-commerce in South Africa is still slow. And so it's a function of how do you introduce it at the root? How do we introduce? A lot of the participants at the summit were saying, we are not tech savvy. And we were saying, well, these are some of the concepts and these are some of the technologies that you need to be comfortable around. And we are coming here to introduce you to it. Because if you don't, you'll be left behind. If you do it, everything will be manual. There's two paradigms to digital migration. There's one of analog to digital, and then there's one of, small businesses integrating within the digital economy. And that's what we're focusing on. So many of the guests we had were speakers, were thought leaders in this space, and were people, actual entrepreneurs, black entrepreneurs that are taking advantage of the digital economy and its opportunities.
Now, still on the township, take me through the term townshippreneurs. I think it's very interesting.
Yes, I think it's something you just came up with, and I think I like it.
Really?
Townshippreneurs is a very good thing. But essentially it's about how entrepreneurship is already happening in townships. How do we formalize it? How do we give capacity to it? How do we skill it? Is essentially how do we ensure that we create these black industrialists? Because if you had to think of how many black industrialists do we have in South Africa, it would be a very difficult number to come up with. It's probably not within your one finger. So it's essentially how do we start grooming the next level of black township industrialists.
And how do we do that, do you suggest, Matsi?
Well, there are key components. The digital economy is one of them. Enabling township entrepreneurs to utilize technology is one of the facets. And also, how do we create markets within township environments? One thing that the Go Digital Summit focused on is the digital marketplace. You could be anywhere in the world. You could be in China, you could be in New York, but if nobody knows that you the creator of these beautiful, beads, people are always looking for things that are ethnic, but if you don't have a digital presence, then there's something wrong. You're not extending yourself to, a market that, extends itself to the rest of the world.
I think it's easy to often speak on behalf of, actual townshippreneurs or entrepreneurs in townships. But, just from your participants' perspective, some of the people that came to the summit, what were their concerns? What were their challenges that they experienced on a day-to-day basis? Well,
their challenges is that they do feel that they're being left behind. And it comes at a very interesting time in our country where we're experiencing the xenophobic attacks. There have been times when, you had foreign nationals having, their stores being attacked within township environments. So for us, it's let's enable you. Let's give you the key components components of being able to run, a business, so that you can be competitive. You don't feel like you're being left behind. We kind of grooming the sense of, what is entrepreneurship? It's something that's not for everybody. It's something that's not easy. It's not an easy route. So we would engage current entrepreneurs, people that have traveled the journey, and say, come into our township environments and tell your story. Put the reality to, being, self-employed and being in business, because it tends to be something that's fashionable. I'm self-employed. I'm an entrepreneur, but people don't know half the work that has to come into being, your own boss, and running your own successful business.
Let's talk about some of the stakeholders and partnerships that you've had for the Kasi to Kasi Go Summit. I understand that it's not just important, for entrepreneurs to venture into entrepreneurship on their own, but it's most importantly to have support from government, from private sector, of course, as you mentioned.
Well, being good corporate citizens is key. We had Microsoft come on board. Microsoft has phenomenal tools and services for small businesses, and they felt that, we have all of these great things that can help small businesses, and we want now a platform where we can introduce our forums, our digital cloud computing. They have a whole broad spectrum of services and products. We had the Innovation Hub. Their key concern is that there are not enough Black people who are thinking out of the box and creating things from nothing. So Innovation Hub was quite keen coming on board and saying, hey, we want to create this platform, and this is one of many. Kasi to Kasi means that we'll be traveling from one township to another. So we launched it in Soweto last week at the Soweto Theatre, and it was a phenomenal success. Everybody was saying, thank you for coming, and thank you for presenting these opportunities, and thank you, Microsoft. And in the Innovation Hub, IBM was also quite present. We had the Mayor, Pakstau of, the City Mayor of Johannesburg, come through and introduce also what the city is doing in enabling small businesses to have free access to free Wi-Fi. So it was quite a comprehensive summit, and we feel that all South African townships need to experience this. All business people in townships need to feel that they're not being left behind, and they also need to have public and private sector coming on board and saying, we want to create and enable you to, to prosper and merge yourself into the mainstream economy of our country.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Matsi Modise, advocate for Black entrepreneurs and townships. Thank you so much for coming.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Well, of course, that was very interesting. Kasi to Kasi Go Digital Summit. Well, it's one to definitely go to on their next summit. And thank you so much to Matsi Modise for just informing us on exactly what they're doing to ensure that they empower and advance youth entrepreneurship, of course, in the townships.